for today. Ken Cruz coming to you from Washington, D.C. Today we're keeping it local with our panelists also from the DMV area. First we have EJ Gonzalez from Alexandria, Virginia.
What's up, everyone? And shout out to Zarita because she's been trying to have an all-Canada show. Well, the DMV is representing today, baby. DMV, we made it happen.
Mid-Atlantic in the house, guys. And for the second time ever, we have from Bowie, Maryland, Jeremy Canlis.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's great to be back again. Ready to talk sports, and like EJ said, representing the DMV.
Yes,
and by the way, thanks, fellas, for not including me on the flannel memo, right? But once again, thanks for joining. Before we go on, I just want to remind all of our viewers that we're by no means experts, but rather a good group of friends expressing our own opinions and sharing the same passion for sports. Before we get into our discussions, let's catch you guys up on some recent sports news from around the globe. We'll start off with the confirmation of the mega fight between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury to determine the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Dates and venue are yet to be confirmed. The contract for a two-fight deal has been signed by both parties after months of negotiations. Eddie Hearn, Joshua's promoter and the managing director of Matchroom Sports, said, quote, "We'd like to get a site deal confirmed in the next month. The hard part is always getting everybody to put pen to paper. But this was a major effort from all parties to get this over the line. You had rival promoters, rival networks, and rival fighters," end quote. As for some contract details, the first fight calls for a 50-50 split, while the second fight will be 60-40 with the larger percentage awarded to the winner. The plan is for both fights to take place in 2021, the first in June, July, and the second in November or December. This matchup can lead to the biggest fight in British boxing history and potentially the biggest fight of 2021. In NFL news, EJ has a story on some of the big names moving around the league. EJ?
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, man. Since the start of free agency, many teams throughout the National Football League have been active in signing and re-signing players for next season. And here are the latest deals in the NFL. One of the biggest deals signed this week was offensive tackle Trent Williams, who re-signed with the San Francisco 49ers. Williams inked a 6-year deal worth over $138 million. And the Buccaneers also made more moves to keep last year's Super Bowl championship team together. Tight end Rob Gronkowski re-signed with the team on a 1-year deal for $8 million, and defensive end Shaquille Barrett also re-signed with the Bucs on a 4-year, $68 million deal, while linebacker Levante David signed a 2-year deal worth $25 million. And today, the Steelers came to an agreement with Juju Smith-Schuster to return on a 1-year deal worth $8 million. The former number 2 pick in Mitch Trubisky has signed with the Buffalo Bills. The quarterback received a 1-year contract for $2.5 million to back up one of last year's MVP frontrunners in Josh Allen. Buffalo also reached a 1-year agreement with wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders. For New Orleans, with Drew Brees announcing his retirement from the NFL, the Saints re-signed Jameis Winston to a 1-year deal worth $5.5 million, which includes a $4.5 million signing bonus. And the Las Vegas Raiders add Kenyon Drake at the running back position with a contract worth $11 million over 2 years. The Miami Dolphins add wide receiver Will Fuller with a 1-year deal worth a guaranteed $10.6 million. The Arizona Cardinals also added a wide receiver in A.J. Green with a 1-year deal worth $6 million. And the Washington football team have been extremely active, filling holes on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. First, quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick finalized a deal with Washington on a 1-year, $10 million contract. Washington also added a new receiving weapon, Curtis Samuel, on a 3-year deal worth $34.5 million, and on the defensive end, cornerback William Jackson III inked a 3-year deal for $40.5 million with $26 million guaranteed. And that's just a few. That's a lot. That's just a few of the top signings this week, and it's guaranteed that many more deals will be reached and many more millions will be spent in the near future. Back to you, Ken.
Thanks, EJ. New faces, new places. We'll talk more about that later in our segment. Now you're caught up with some sports news that happened this week. Before we get into discussion, we're going to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. EBC Sports International. We'll be right back.
Broadcast journalist Wayne De La Fuente returns on Philippine television and radio to deliver top stories and engage with the country's policymakers, shapers, and movers. Tatalakayin ang mga pangunahing balita alas 7 ng umaga mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Wayne De La Fuente sa Balitalakayan.
Iba't ibang kulay at disenyo. Yan ang industriya ng printing.
Simula po pagkabata, hilig ko na po talaga mag-drawing, mga graphic art.
Ako nag-paint, ako nagle-layout.
Ano siya, unique kasi sa'yo galing yung design mo, ikaw lang yung magkakaroon ng ganon.
Tuturuan namin kayo kung paano gawin ito.
Doon nagkaroon ng idea na maggawa ng printing shop.
Isa-isa munang makina, una printer, tapos yung heater, tapos hanggang sa nabuo ko na siya.
Kung gusto mo talagang i-venture yung passion mo, maganda siyang business talaga.
Ako po, si Robin Padilla. At ito po ang ulat. Kaagapay sa hanap buhay.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right into the NBA. And it seems like a weekly thing with Damian Lillard willing his team to win in the final seconds. Earlier this week against the New Orleans Pelicans, Dame Time made clutch free throws to get the W against the Pelicans. And on top of that, dropped a 50-piece. Last night in their rematch, he scored 36 to lead his team to another win against New Orleans. The word clutch gets thrown around a lot, but Lillard embodies the word, and in a recent post-game interview with TNT, he had an all-time great, thorough response to a question regarding his clutchness. He spoke of all the work he puts and how he focuses on remaining calm while others get more tense during late game situations. We know how great Dame is when it comes to hitting that last-second shot, but can we state that he's the most clutch player ever? Let's start the debate on our panel. Jeremy, what do you think?
Dame Lillard, definitely one of the clutchest players in the league today. But to say ever, that's a little tough. There's a few people that we could think of just off the top of our head. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, those to name a few. But Dame is definitely on that list. I'll give him the credit. He's been carrying his team on his back, especially in the late in the game. So I'll give him definitely a clutch player, but it's hard to say if he's the most clutch ever.
EJ, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, when we think ever, right, we got to think down the line of NBA history. And like Jeremy mentioned, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, I think, top that list. As soon as you think of clutch players, those are the first two people you think of. Damian Lillard, he is amazing. We had a debate about this a couple episodes back. And when we say clutch, what do we want to define as clutch, right? Is it who can score the most points in the last 5 minutes of a close game, within 5 points, a 5-point game? Because last year, that was Chris Paul, who led the entire NBA in clutch points, and we don't talk about him a lot. It's because he's not hitting buzzer beaters. And one of the biggest points I mentioned in that last time we spoke about this is why Damian Lillard has so many buzzer beaters. It's because they can't pull away from games. Yes, he's the one who's carrying the load right now, especially while CJ McCollum was injured, and he has carried the team on his back, and I think should be the front runner for MVP. And I think we're going to go ahead and talk about that later down on the episode. But when you think about Damian Lillard, he has so many clutch buckets, so many last-second buzzer beaters. And I can make the argument it's because the team sticks around to the Portland Trailblazers. Portland is not killing these teams outright like the Brooklyn Nets are, or even, the Lakers at times. Why LeBron James doesn't have as many buzzer beaters, specifically this season alone, right? So if the games weren't so close, Damian Lillard wouldn't have those opportunities to make those buzzer beaters, but he does make them. And the reason why Portland is winning games is because he steps up to the plate when it matters the most. So if we're talking about clutch, when we're saying who takes over the games right now in the NBA, it's got to be Damian Lillard. If I'm I'm on the opposing team and I see Damian Lillard on the other side, I got to step up to him once he crosses half court, because you could see his Dame time. He's pulling up from half court like a regular jumper, smooth, in control, and it's not a forced shot. And even Paul George, he retracted his statement when Damian Lillard waved goodbye to them, right? When he made Oklahoma City exit the playoffs early. And Paul George, immediately after that, Damian Lillard waved goodbye to him. Paul George said that was a bad shot. And he retracted that after the last All-Star game, saying Damian Lillard can make that shot time and time again. And like what Ken said, his mentality, it's just his mentality that he's able to keep himself calm. He knows that he can make that shot, and that's why he has success. But to answer the question, greatest ever, I don't think so yet. He hasn't proved it in a game that mattered so much. Just like Jordan, who hit buzzer beaters to win finals, the last shot against Utah Jazz, or even Kobe Bryant, who's made timeless buzzer-beating three-point jumpers fading away in the playoffs to advance to the next round. I mean, Damian Lillard hasn't had that on his resume yet. He's had lots of buzzer beaters in regular season, but I don't think that's enough to make his case for the greatest ever. We're just going to have to wait and see what he does later down in his career, but he is one of the most clutch players right now.
Jeremy, let me ask you this. You're a hooper, right? I mean, for all the locals here around, you're known as the guy that'll get the ball towards the last possession, and you'll coolly hit the shot. What do you think about? Did you see the interview this last week with Lillard on TNT after he hit that? When I think it was Dwayne Wade, Shaq, and who else was there? But pretty much they were talking about they were asking Dame about like what makes you so good in the clutch, and he said, and I mentioned this earlier, he's like, people get tense, I don't. I mean, what do you think what do you think about that statement? And as someone who's hit his fair share of last second shots to win the game, what do you think it requires to get to a point where you can become quote unquote clutch?
Okay, that's a great question. I could kind of see what Dame means by his statement. You definitely have to stay poised. As a basketball player or any sport, you want to stay poised and stay relaxed. One thing growing up, my father always told me when I play the game of basketball is you have to think that you're the best. Even though I wasn't the best on the court, I had that in my mind. And when it came down to the last shot, and it always changes, it varies because the situations are different. But when it came to that last shot, if you could win it, whether you were down 1 or down 2, or if the game was tied, you had that mentality. You just get in the zone, try to stay poised, stay relaxed, and take that shot. You let the ball fly, and you pray that it goes in. And that's honestly the mentality that you have to have in order to even gather yourself for the shot. And you kind of play it in your head exactly what you're going to do for that particular play. You stick to that, and you just hope for the best.
Yeah, and then following up with that, like, how do you get to that point where you're able to play these scenarios in your head, stay cool? Like, what kind of practice, what kind of hours do you need to put in behind the scenes?
Of course, repetition. And it's funny. I was practicing with my cousins last week, and I said, "Oh, we do that. I used to do this all the time." And what it is I count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we literally do that for fun. And mimicking that, in practice or just having fun playing basketball by yourself, and having that scenario in your head, that countdown. Doing it repetitiously, and over time it almost feels natural. So when you get to that game time moment, you play back to the time when you're practicing, and you kind of just have that same mood in your head where you're relaxed at home, where you're relaxed at practice by yourself. You try to mimic that same feeling during game time. And I always try to tell the ones that I'm bringing up, you have practice players and you have game time players, and you want to be that game time player.
Yeah, EJ, let me go to you. I mean, I know you're a shooter yourself when you're, as a basketball player, right? What is the difference between just a shooter and a clutch shooter?
Well, I wouldn't be considered the clutch shooter. I mean, it really is. It's the mentality that you have when you have that final possession. And what Jeremy was mentioning, if you're down 1, if you're down 2, or if it's tied, it's different mentalities. I mean, when you're tied, you kind of feel less pressure, right? Because you don't have to make that bucket. You get a chance in overtime to make a statement there. It doesn't rely on just one shot. Being down 1 or 2, it gives you the option. Do you drive? Do you try to draw a foul? Or do you just step back and try a jumper, just like Damian always does? But for me, I'm a consistent shooter, and I think it's because of just what I've always practiced. That's exactly what Jeremy was saying. The more you practice it, the better you are. And I've had my fair share of countdowns of 3, 2, 1, and in my backyard shooting those shots. But it's not the game time decision. And like Jeremy said, you're a game time player, or you're a practice player. I would be the practice player. I can make the shots that'll get us back in, but when it comes to the last shot, I've choked free throws. You could ask Jeremy's brother-in-law about that. I've missed a game-tying 3-point jumper. I mean, it's just a lot more pressure than than just practice. So if you are confident in practicing under pressure, then I think the more tournaments you join, and just through experience, that's when you become a more clutch shooter versus just a regular shooter like myself.
So I read an article about a month ago, regarding Dame's clutchness, and what's crazy is that he's had, and this was already a month ago, he's had the most game-winning field goals in the last 5 seconds since 2012, 2013, with 9. Right. You know who number 2 is? This is crazy to me. Guess who number 2 is, guys?
Derrick Rose.
Number 2, 2012, 2013. LeBron James.
Oh, okay. No, it's true. It's true. Actually, I might agree with that a lot more. I think LeBron James doesn't get enough credit for his clutchness. Again, it depends on how they're taking those stats, right? Like if it's
the reason why I bring this up is because in LeBron's early years, especially the year before 2012, when he lost to the Dallas Mavs. Right. In 2011, right? That's when I think it was the peak of his quote unquote anti-clutchness. But the reason why I bring this up is, I think for anyone that wants to become a clutch player, it's never too late, because LeBron went from anti-clutch to clutch.
Right.
But I think like what both you guys said, it's a matter of putting in the reps. Even if you're a rookie. And speaking of rookies, let's go to our next topic. This year's top 3 picks are performing as hyped for their respective teams. The number 1 pick of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, has found his groove and is on a scoring tear. Last night, he put up a career-high 42 points against the Phoenix Suns. The number 2 pick of the Golden State Warriors had a minor setback in February with a wrist injury, James Wiseman, but has come back extremely strong so far this season, averaging 11.8 points a game and 6 rebounds on a team filled with championship experience in Steph Curry and Draymond Green. I think that's what's helped his growth the most is that Draymond Green, if you see him, even mid-game, he's coaching. That's awesome stuff. And then finally, the number 3 pick in the draft, LaMelo Ball of the Charlotte Hornets, has probably been the most hyped, and with good reason, as he's putting on a show game after game, even this early in his career. His vision, scoring ability have gathered praise from stars around the league, even from LeBron James last night after their loss to the Lakers. And he's putting up some sweet numbers: 16 points a game, 6 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game. Those are veteran numbers. Now, it's a good sign when rookies are making this much noise, and it shows the future of the league is bright. My question: which of these 3 rookies will have the best NBA career? EJ?
Man, honestly, I'm just so happy for these 3 players because when we were entering this NBA season, right, we were talking about the draft, and we were like, we don't know what they're capable of because we didn't have an NCAA tournament last year, right? They didn't get to showcase their skills on national television, and that's the time where I really get to scope out players and see what they're made of. And I just gotta say, top 3 picks: Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, and LaMelo Ball. And we look back. Let's just look back the year before: Zion, Ja Morant, R.J. Barrett. I think two players already showing that they can hang. R.J. Barrett's kind of okay. Then you just go back another year: DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, and then Luka Doncic, who was swapped for Trae Young at the 5th pick. But Luka Doncic was the 3rd pick, right? And right out of those 3, Luka Doncic is the only name that's really showing that he can be that superstar. And then when you look just one more year back, Fultz, Ball, and then Tatum. Lonzo Ball was picked 2nd compared to LaMelo Ball being picked 3rd. But LaMelo Ball right now is showing everyone predicted that he would be the best out of the 3 Ball brothers. And then again, you're looking at that list: Fultz, Ball, Tatum. Tatum's the only one who's showing superstar skills or that sign that he can make it to that next step. Now we look back now at current Edwards, Wiseman, and Ball, and I cannot believe what I'm seeing from these 2 in Edwards and LaMelo Ball. First of all, Anthony Edwards, career high 42 points against the Suns, who are red hot, right? And he led them to a victory. And he became the 3rd youngest to score 40-plus points at 19 years old. That's what we're not... I don't know if that's being talked about enough. These guys are only 19, and they're able to showcase this much against some of the best athletes in the game. And when I think about Edwards, his athleticism is off the charts. He reminds me of a Russell Westbrook, but has a much smoother jumper. People are also comparing him to Dwayne Wade, which I can also see. The guy has hops, man. He can jump out of the gym. He's had his fair share of posters, and one of them on Watanabe, I think is the name. I remember. Right, I was like, yo, stop the Asian cry. Stop the Asian hate, man, when I saw that poster. But all good fun. I know that's a very serious issue right now, but I mean, that's really, honestly the first thing I thought of, and I was just like, man, I feel bad for Watanabe being put on a poster, but that was just a spectacular display of athleticism from Edwards. And then LaMelo Ball, he's exposing NBA players again at just 19 years old. Became the youngest NBA player to ever record a triple-double, and I believe that was off the bench. I don't even think he started that game, and he was able to record that triple-double. And although they lost to the Lakers last night, to Ken's Lakers, Melo did lead the team in scoring with 26 points, 7 assists, and 5 boards. So who do I think is going to have the better career? And honestly, it all depends on what stars they get paired up with. Because right now, with LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward, I don't think it's enough to get him to the next step. Anthony Edwards is on a Minnesota Timberwolves team where he needs to score that much points. When they get into a situation where they have players who can back them up and become real contenders, that's when we're really going to see their true potential. But if we're basing it off just right now, LaMelo Ball has the best chances. Why? Athleticism wears off, and we've seen it time and time again. Father Time is undefeated. Athleticism is going to wear off, and that's what Anthony Edwards has right now, is this athleticism. LaMelo Ball plays smart. He's able to control the game. He's able to get his teammates involved. And when we see that, just like LeBron has shown, he can have a good career when you can really count on the players around you. Again, I think he needs to be surrounded by a little bit more skilled players to really showcase his skill set. But LaMelo Ball, out of the three, I think is going to have the brighter career. Even if they don't move anywhere, he's going to be consistent in his game.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
Oh, man. First things first, I will just say that the NBA's future is in good hands. With these three right here, to have the best career, it's hard to say. But what they're doing right now is phenomenal. But if I were to choose, I would have to go with LaMelo as well. Like EJ mentioned, Anthony Edwards, I mean, he comes with grit. He comes with explosiveness. His athleticism is outrageous. He's averaging 16.8 points, something like that. Almost 17 points. LaMelo is super smooth, has a very high IQ. For a man his age, he's averaging a little less than Anthony Edwards, but he's averaging more rebounds and more assists. James Wiseman, he's not as fun to watch, I'd say, because he's a bigger player. He plays in the paint. He doesn't have to dribble as much, so he's not as flashy. He's not posterizing like Anthony Edwards is. But to say longevity, I would have to agree with EJ. LaMelo, he stays low to the ground. He doesn't jump out the sky like Anthony Edwards. James Wiseman already had an injury, so we don't know how injury prone he is as a big. But as far as longevity and having the best career, I would have to go with LaMelo Smooth Ball. LaMelo Smooth Ball, he's going to be great, and he's going to last a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great points, guys. And just one final thing. Just remember, guys, LaMelo Ball scored 92 points in a high school game.
Right.
21 points in the fourth quarter. The dude can get buckets when he wants. So time for a short break. Don't go anywhere, guys. This is EBC Sports International.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced. Not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Agila Pilipinas. A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Agila Probinsya. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science, and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to Thanks our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back back to EBC Sports International. It seems like almost every day the choice for MVP of the NBA this season changes. It's a tight race between 5 to 6 players, and with the second half of the season in full gear, it's only going to get more intense. NBA.com just released their updated MVP rankings, and right now it goes as follows. Number 1, believe this or not, Nikola Jokic. Number 2, Damian Lillard. Number 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo. 4, LeBron James. 5, Joel Embiid. Couple things to note here. Joel Embiid is recovering from a knee injury, probably out another couple weeks, and James Harden is somehow not on this list. What are your thoughts on this current ranking? Will it hold, or will it be different next week, tomorrow, this weekend? Jeremy.
Oh, man. I would have to agree with the list. I think that group of guys definitely deserve to be on that list. But do I agree with the order that it's in? No, I do not.
Right.
I'd have to agree. I'd have to say that I believe LeBron James should be at top. LeBron James has been carrying his team. Year in year after year, LeBron just continues to prove that he's an MVP candidate. It was snubbed from him, if not last year, the year before. And I feel like after LeBron James, it would have to be. I'll have to give it to my guy at 76ers. He's doing his thing, Joel Embiid. Unfortunately, he's hurt, so that might change within the next coming week or however long. But Damian Lillard as well, number 3 for me. Damian Lillard is, like we said before earlier in the show, Damian Lillard is carrying his team and being clutch when it counts. So that would be my top 3 right there.
So a couple stats for you guys. Nuggets right now are currently number 5, tied in a record 4 ways between the Clippers themselves, the Blazers, and the Spurs at 16 losses, right? So but Nikola Jokic has been putting up pretty much all-time numbers. Damian Lillard, as I mentioned, is playing without his second and third leading scorers with CJ McCollum, who's going to be back soon, I think, or should be back today.
He just came back last week, I believe.
Okay, and then also Nikola Nurkic. So those are big losses, and to still be at number 6 makes sense. Right. Giannis Antetokounmpo is quietly having an MVP season himself. He's only 1 game or a game and a half back from from the first place 76ers, and he's averaging insane numbers. LeBron James, as mentioned, his stats look pretty good, and also they're on a 4-game winning streak, and I think they're 7-2, I think, without Anthony Davis, but with Dennis Schroeder. And then Joel Embiid, as mentioned, they're still number 1, but he's out for a few games. So, saying all that, EJ, what do you make of this list?
Yeah, I definitely do not agree that Jokic should be number 1. I get it, right? Like you look at his statistics. He's scoring 27.1 points per game, 11 rebounds, 8.6. Basically close to a triple-double, and he just racked his 10th triple-double recently. I think he's second on the right now in the season for most triple-doubles behind our guy Russell Westbrook, but the Wizards are playing atrocious. But that's neither here or there. We're talking about MVP. Jokic,
Jazz, man.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why, but the Wizards always plays the good teams well. And like we've seen this season, they beat Brooklyn twice. Granted, that was once without KD, but still, they won one with KD. So I don't know. Anyway, we're talking about MVP. Jokic does not deserve that number 1 spot. I think that Damian Lillard should be at the number 1 spot after this week. His stats, points per game, 5 rebounds, 7.8 assists. And he has the same record as the Nuggets. The Nuggets were struggling, yes, in the beginning, and they've turned it around somehow. But the Blazers have always been there, and I don't know why they have been. There's literally no one on that team except Damian Lillard because CJ McCollum was out. And like you said, Nurkic has also experienced injury. This guy has been carrying the team this whole season on his back, and they're only relevant because of Damian Lillard. When we think about MVPs, we think about you take them off the team, and what happens, right? In Denver, everybody's healthy. So Jokic is playing with the best team that he's got. Damian Lillard, no one's healthy. And they're still relevant in the Western Conference. So I think just by that alone, Damian Lillard should be over Jokic at this time and point. I do feel bad, though, because Joel Embiid, had he not gotten injured, this guy has been playing MVP. I think he was front runner for MVP, but because he gets injured,
unstoppable.
Right, and it's insane how much better he got over just one season. Like just a switch of the mental switch, and he's able to produce a year like this. I feel bad for him getting injured. Thankfully, it's not an ACL tear or anything like that. But I'm worried for him to be back healthy because we know he's had his share of injuries. And after a year that he's been having this year, to be averaging 29.9 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, and then to just have the number one spot taken from him on the MVP ladder because of an injury is just very unfortunate. I do agree that LeBron James should be a front runner every single year. I think he should have won more than the 4 that he's had. And we've taken him for granted. He's averaging basically a triple-double as well at 25, 8, and 8. So if and now he's doing that without Anthony Davis, and earlier, again, like you said, without Dennis Schroeder. So he has been having to carry his team. And I don't think it's fair that with Jokic having a fully healthy team and him being at that number one spot on the MVP ladder, I just don't think that's right, considering the things that these other guys had to go through with injuries.
Well, let's end this segment with this question: who will eventually win this award at the end of the season? Jeremy.
Damian Lillard, for sure.
Whoa, hot take alert! Hot take alert.
Reason being, most valuable player, like EJ was, like EJ mentioned, valuable in terms of without him, they would be nothing. I don't think Carmelo Anthony can carry the team by himself.
Right.
But if for the Nuggets, if he was gone, what's his name again?
Jamal Murray.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Jokic. If Jokic was gone, Jamal Murray would be the guy.
Would carry that team.
So, speaking of MVP, most valuable player, I'd have to go Damian Lillard.
EJ?
It's scary because if the Lakers
who's gonna win this?
it could be if Lillard does not keep up that pace and they fall down the ladder of the Western Conference, I think you'd have to give it to Giannis. Because again, you take him. But listen. I know. I don't think he should have won it last year. I think LeBron should have won it last year. But this year, you take him out. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are worse this year than they were last year.
Come on,
right
Bledsoe.
now they're but Drew Holiday isn't really picking up anything. You know, he's not like the best guy. And Chris Middleton has been a shell of himself this year. And Giannis is still leading the team. They're the hottest team in the NBA right now at 9-1. They have a chance to overtake Brooklyn and Philadelphia because of Embiid's injury. If they're able to do that, I can see Giannis winning 3 straight. Because, again, he's been the one carrying the team.
And he had a wit.
Where's
Wit? Got a whiz. What's it called? So like to close off this, I just gotta say that LeBron James is playing right now at not even just a first team All NBA, first team All NBA defense also.
Yes.
I mean, this guy is just on a run in his 18th year. I think with Anthony Davis set to be out another couple weeks, if the Lakers continue this run, I think his narrative, as we keep continuing to mention, MVP is all about the narrative. If they continue to win, his narrative will continue to strengthen. And by the end of the season, I think if they're at the top or near the top of the Western Conference, he's going to take this award. Now, let's move on to the NFL. Next season will look completely different, as mentioned by EJ earlier. For many teams, as the face of their team, the quarterback will be fresh. Some big names in New Jersey's for the 2021-2022 season include Matthew Stafford of my Los Angeles Rams, Andy Dalton of with the Chicago Bears, Ryan Fitzpatrick of the Washington football team. These guys will probably expand more on that. Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, Carson Wentz, Indianapolis Colts, Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is just projected #1 pick of the NFL draft by the Jags, by the way. And if we're looking at like most likely, that's most likely. Now, which of these QBs will have the biggest impact for their new team? We have about 4 minutes. Let's go, guys. EJ.
Well, sorry, Ken, but I think this is a Washington football team segment right here. It's not Matt Stafford, that's for sure. I don't know. So I was listening to Mike Greeny, and he had some crazy stats, which is not talked about a lot. Fitzpatrick, over the last couple of years, has higher completion percentage than Tom Brady, more yards per attempt than Russell Wilson, and a better QBR than Deshaun Watson, who is arguably like the most targeted quarterback during this offseason, right? But with the current allegations that are happening, I don't know if he's on a high list anymore.
Yeah, that's a different kind of target. That's a different kind of target, EJ.
Right, exactly. But with that type of stuff, and he is called Fitzmagic for a reason. And then you think about his coach, Ron Rivera. They won the NFC East last year. NFC East doesn't matter. They won the division, and they're going to make another run for it this year, especially with the additional weapons of Curtis Samuel at the receiver position with his former college teammate Terry McLaurin. So those two already have some sort of gelling going on even before the signing, and I'm excited to see what Fitzmagic can do. I still think Taylor Heineke can be the starting quarterback, but if Fitzmagic is there, I think we always have a chance to win a game any Sunday.
Well, Jeremy, I mean, I know you want to talk about Washington football team, which you can, but I want to bring up, so before Tom Brady went to the Bucs, they were already a very, very strong defensive team. Washington football team is similar in that case, where they're a strong core of defense, just strengthened this year. And now they have a new quarterback, just like Tom Brady came last year. And as EJ mentioned, better numbers than Tom Brady. What do you think Washington football team's ceiling can be for this coming season with a new quarterback?
Oh, man, I honestly hope. I mean, we have it every year. We hope every year.
Right. That's the thing.
And we're let down every year. But, this year feels a little different. Fitzmagic. His name is Fitzmagic. I mean, what the guy brings to the team, not only does he bring the stats, and not only is he great at being a quarterback, but he has this swag about him. He has that beard. He talks to the media like very openly, and he's very transparent. And I think that's what the Washington football needs. Now, speaking on defense, we picked up William Jackson, cornerback from the Bengals. And his addition to our defense is almost like the last piece of the puzzle, my friend. So adding him to the defense and then adding Fitzmagic to the offense, boom. I feel a Super Bowl coming right here.
We're going to the Super Bowl.
Okay, well, we'll just leave it at that, guys. It's break time. Stick around. We have one more segment after this. You're watching EBC Sports International, a.k.a. Washington Football Team's #1 fan.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back, and thanks for sticking with us. It's officially March Madness. The NCAA tournament has started its first round, and upsets are all over the place. It's been a crazy season already, with many of the traditional teams not making the tournament, probably the most notable being Duke and Kentucky. I wanted to get your take, gentlemen, on your most memorable March Madness memory. Jeremy?
My most memorable March Madness memory would have to be the University of Maryland defeating the University of Indiana in 2002, winning the game 64-52, being led by one of the greatest one of the greatest in University of Maryland history, Juan Dixon, Steve Blake, as well as Lonnie Baxter, which was their center. Byron Mouton, which we played with in FABA. Ken, you might not know, but we played with him.
I had no idea.
Chris Wilcox, yes. So we played basketball with former D1 players, Ken. And it was led by that group of guys, and that hands down, the most memorable March Madness moment for me. I love March Madness. It's one of the greatest times in sports of the year, only because it's so raw and these kids are striving for the next level and they're playing their hearts out, literally leaving everything on the floor, and you could just see it in their game, see it in their eyes and the way they move, and they're just giving all effort, and that's why March is mad.
Yeah, it's literally where heroes are made, legends are made, right? I mean, we can just talk about even Steph Curry. That's how we found out who Steph Curry was. Even though he's the son of Del Curry, we didn't know who he was until he started. He made that legendary NCAA run. So let's go to EJ. What are your thoughts as far as the most mad of March for you for NCAA?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't really watch March Madness like that. This year, I think I'm getting way more into it. I filled out a bracket, and my bracket is busted already. But I do remember, right? What I do remember when I was younger, and it is exact same year. We're from Maryland, man. Now I'm in Virginia, but grew up in Maryland. It had to be 2002, but it wasn't the championship game that stuck with me. The game that stuck with me, pretty much the only game I remember as I was growing up was when Maryland played UConn to get into the Final Four. So Maryland went on to win the NCAA tournament, like Jeremy said that year, but and that's their only title to this date. But it was this game that stuck with me the most. First, it was the first time I've ever seen Caron Butler, even in college. The guy looked scary. And for him to be Maryland's opponent, I despised him. And like Jeremy said, Juan Dixon and Steve Blake were players from Maryland who stepped up. And I thought at my young 9-year age were the best players I've ever seen. And it was like, right, Steve Blake and Juan Dixon. And they had that was a Cinderella story, by the way. And who doesn't love a Cinderella story? But it was a close back and forth game, and Maryland ended up beating UConn and Caron Butler. Little did I know, although we drafted Juan Dixon and Steve Blake, who I admired, the Wizards drafted them that year, I'd grow to love Caron Butler more than them, because he was part of our big three in the Washington Wizards with Gilbert Arenas and Antoine Jameson, and I loved his grit. He was still the same scary dude that I remember as a 9-year-old, and I ended up despising Juan Dixon after failing to do anything in the NBA after such a tremendous performance, college performance, and Cinderella story, March Madness. But man, that had to be my favorite memory, was growing up, Maryland beating UConn and Caron Butler.
Yeah, great takes from these homers. My favorite. As for me, I mean, it's not even a good memory, but it's one of those. It's easily one of the craziest memories. I was really young at the time, and I was in Australia, but it was one of those things that, like, literally, I mean, like, you heard throughout the world and still continue to hear to this day. It's the Fab Five, and it was the '93 NCAA championship. They lost the previous year versus Duke. Yeah, and this was the championship game against UNC, North Carolina. It was right at the end of the game. Chris Webber called a timeout that they did not have, got a technical, and lost their second chance for a championship. In back-to-back years. The biggest what if, and like these were like the coolest guys, right? They were the ones that brought in like the long shorts, the hip hop to the NCAA, and man, it was the biggest what if in March Madness. Now, last segment, last thing we do, question of the week. Some of the best quotes have ever in all of history come from sports athletes. Now, let me ask you guys. What's your favorite motivational quote from any athlete? Jeremy.
I have two. I have two favorite quotes. One of them is from Kevin Durant.
Oh my gosh.
And that one is. Were you going to say the same thing?
Hard work fails hard when. Oh no, the talent. Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. That was mine too.
Yes. I mean, that alone is self-explanatory. That's why we work as hard as we do, because when that talent fails, hard work beats it. But my second one is from the late, great Kobe Bryant, and that's rest at the end, not in the middle.
Nice.
It's so simple, but means so much. And those two quotes right there really motivate me and push me when I'm in those times where I just need a little bit of encouragement and just to keep on going. Those two quotes right there are my top.
Awesome quotes. EJ?
Yeah, man, that Kevin Durant quote, I think it must be a DMV thing, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a DMV thing.
Right. The other one I would have to say is Michael Jordan's quote that everyone quotes. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so just take them.
Sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Yep, no, great quote. And then for me, it's also a Kobe Bryant quote. I mean, like, I think Kobe's probably one of the most quotable guys like ever. And what's crazy is, like, even like, let's say he lived, he didn't pass, he probably would have a billion more quotes because, like, I feel like he was just getting into talking. My quote from him is, "The moment you give up is the moment you let someone else win." Late great Kobe. Now,
and it's because he's so great and he like leads by example. So those quotes mean much more.
I think that's what it is that the guy showed it more than he said it. And he says a lot. Thanks so much, guys, for all the time that you have, for sticking with us in this week's edition of EBC Sports International. On behalf of everyone on our panel, thank you so much. Be sure to tune again next week. Make sure to visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at EagleNewsPH to join the conversation. For Eagle News, Ken Cruz, we live in interesting times.